Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We're Baltimore positively getting through the weekend and through the week as we get ready for a mandatory mini camps. Luke's going to be out in Owings Mills for all that. But in the meantime, they're going to play baseball each and every day. We're going to have the World Cup next month, and I'm going to have as many crab cakes as humanly possible. I'm trying to put something together at Petey Coringi up in Highlandtown so we can talk some proper football and Copa Mundial, or as I call it, the most corrupt thing on earth. But in the meantime, the Orioles are playing. They're back to relevancy after a three-game sweep over the first place Tampa Bay Rays. The Maryland Crab Cake Tour returns to Sorrento of Arbutus. I've never had the crab cake over there. I'm looking forward to spending a little time with Harold and Henry over there and doing that. That'll be that's coming up after well, after I get back, let's say that. On the 10th of June, we'll be at Sorrento. We're working on the World Cup beginning 11th. We're going to be at Gertrude's in June. We're going to be at Greenmount Station in Hampstead, beautiful pastoral Carroll County. And I tell you what, this guy disappeared from all things Baltimore about 4 decades ago. He went down to Tampa. He turned a life of sports writing into a pastime of golf and beaching and sunning himself. But he is a Baltimorean, as all of the artwork behind him, even back to the Baltimore Colts. Joel Poiley has been with us for a long time. He jumps in. You know, I thought of you before the first Tampa series, and I was going to bring you on. It was kind of busy. It was like Preakness time. I was doing horse racing. I had some things going on, and I wasn't ignoring you. I was just sort of like, I'm going to let it breathe, this Tampa Baltimore thing. And then I was going to bring you on before the series. And then I did a bunch of shows, and I had a thing going on. Springsteen was in New York and Pittsburgh. I was out in Vegas, and I left you alone. And then earlier in the week, I'm like, I got to have Joel on because, like, they're playing the Rays. And I'm like, I'll have him on before the Blue Jays, but after the Rays, and then we can read last rites because you're a feisty MFer when you need to be. And I had a feeling like another 3-game sweep,
Yeah.
and you would have been on fire the morning after that. And instead, you come here to praise the Baltimore Orioles today, Joe Poiley, don't you?
I come not to bury the Orioles, but to praise them. Dot, dot, dot. A
Dot, dot,
little
dot.
bit. I had all these notes, man.
You had
Yeah,
your Shakespeare going on. You had it all happening for me
I was
today.
going to trash them. Look, um, I'm I'm as happy as anybody to see that, but we still have to pump the brakes a little bit, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, it's like you put on Facebook the other day, Ness. You get the starting pitching. It starts with that. It keeps you in these games. Uh, the
Without that, you have no chance to win.
Right, and it's like a Paul Richards always said: "You're never as good as you look when you're winning, or as bad when you're losing." I mean, the Rays were not the best team in baseball, even though they had the best record. There's a lot of sports is timing. I mean, the Rays were still playing well. They lost a tough game Sunday in New York in extra innings, and then that crazy game here on Monday, which could have gone either way. And then the last 2 nights, they didn't play well. We got the pitching, the hitting's coming around. And see, this whole wild card thing, though, is giving everybody, I think, somewhat false optimism. They say, I wrote this down. There's still 10 teams within 6 games of the wild card spot. Don't even talk to me about the
Well, it's
playoffs.
Memorial Day. They should be,
Right. Don't
nobody should stink so bad that they should be out of it right now.
Bingo. Don't talk to me about the wild card until about August 20th, maybe. I
Well, you
mean,
need to talk about it July 1st because you got to figure out whether you're a buyer
well,
or a seller
yes.
in modern
Yeah.
parlance especially when you have Rutschmans and Hendersons. I mean, they mismanaged Machado from a value standpoint if they
Yes.
weren't going to win, and they need to figure out what they are. But to your point, unless you really stink,
Yeah.
July 10th, you could say I'm within 5 games, right?
Exactly. And they're still what, 4 games under 500. And you got to remember, they lost 5 out of 6 on that road trip before they came home. So basically, they're just back to where they were, but they're trending in the right direction, and that's what we're looking for. And they're beginning to piece some things together. This would be an interesting series. I know Luke was saying 7-3 on his homestand. They already won 5 games because none of us thought they'd sweep the Rays. They go 2-2 against Toronto. You know, you're breaking even. I think Toronto was a game ahead of us. I never, and this is a God's honest truth, I never look at the standings until Memorial Day because I like to let the first third of the season play out. Look, I follow them. I knew they were close to last. I mean, anytime you're 8 games under 500, you're not going to be close to first. And I knew all about the wild card thing, you know, because people were writing about. But let's set that aside. Let's just play good ball for a couple months and see what happens. But they still have a lot of issues. You know that.
Joel Poiley is our guest. He is an author. He's written a book on Tom Maddie that you can pick up. I'm sure we'll promote that before we get off of here as well. I saw your book somewhere. I meant to take a picture of it. Where was I? I was somewhere kind of cool that was sporty that your book was
In
sitting.
town,
Oh, yeah. You know where it is?
the
It,
Ivy
no, no,
bookstore,
no. It's
Babe
better
Ruth
than that.
Museum,
This is
Babe Ruth.
better than that. Now, so I'm going to ask you a really personal question here. Do you like my hair?
Well,
I'm going to let it out.
you said you were about to get it clipped a little bit from
Well,
what I
my
read.
hairstylist, Gentleman's Gentleman, your book is in Gentleman's Gentleman on the Dace.
That's great.
Sam Lamantia and Tom Matt. There's
I
a whole
mean,
Tom Matty thing there. Your book is in the little glass case there. So there you have it,
that
Tom.
had to be because of Zeman, because he's been pitching the book all over town. But that's beautiful,
Somebody got
brother.
a haircut from Paulie
Thank
and
you.
gifted him a copy of your book that sits right next. You'll appreciate this. Right next to his picture of Dave Grohl and the pic that Peter Frampton gave him backstage when I took him backstage with Styx about 20 years ago. So, and Paul was the guitar player in my band, Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
So your book is at least in the window. Don't steal it, but get a haircut when you stop by Gentleman's Gentleman, Jopper, right next door to my chiropractor, Elliott Chiropractic Life. So your book's right over there. And I have a copy of your book. I should go grab it and hold it up.
No, I got it.
Listen, man, I'm seeing Triumph tonight with Ray Bachman. Hold that up. Tell everybody about your book, and then we'll talk some more
All
baseball.
right. Well, it came out a couple years ago, but my wife was asking me about it because I came up with another idea last night to try and pitch it. Well, I've tried before, like in the airport up there, but Hudson News has a crazy thing about, they only run so many books, but it's still relevant. I mean, anything that you want to know about the old Colts, and if you're still interested. And I mean, Matty was such a legend up there that if you love those old guys, you will love the book. You know that.
No, I'm selling you, man. I'm letting everybody know you're one of. Now, where did you grow up? Was it Woodlawn, Pikesville, somewhere West Side? Where were you?
I was in Baltimore City until I was about 13. Not too far from Pimlico Racetrack. I
Okay,
don't know if people
Park
remember.
Heights is what you would say.
Yeah, I don't know if people remember the old Kuntz Dairy. I don't even know if it's still there. I was living on Linview Avenue when they built Northern Parkway, like in the mid to late 60s.
Wow.
So, and then 13, then we moved to uh, the county. I mean, it was close to Pikesville, but not closer to Randallstown. Then I went to Milford. I lived in Scotts Level Apartments, so it was Old Court and Scotts Level Road.
I know right where you are. I had a friend that lived in those apartments.
Yeah, oh really? And then Paul Blair lived there. That's where I got friendly with Paul.
Okay.
And then I went to Milford, UMBC, and everybody's heard that before. So
Well, and then off to Tampa to be a sports writer. He's written a book on Tom Maddie. For my audience edification and for myself, you
right,
text me very regularly about local Baltimore sports. I mean,
yeah,
what's Ravens or Orioles, you're kind of on it, but you immersed in life down there and you covered all kinds of sports, college sports,
yeah,
in different things that you worked on, wrote pieces, uh, a newspaper reporter, like Bill Free was here, everything, a little bit of this. Jackman covered everything, man of all
yeah,
trades, right?
yeah.
And how much baseball do you watch? How much Rays versus Orioles do you watch? Because,
Okay,
like, even with my pal Pete Williams, who I'm sure you know down in the Tampa area,
yeah,
USA baseball writer, when I get to
yeah,
him now, he's like, I don't watch it as much, like, as I used to. If the kids aren't into it. Now, you're
right,
more like retirement down in Florida, same time zone, which kind of, it's different if you're on the West Coast trying to stay up with the Orioles or whatever in the
right.
middle of the afternoon. But it feels to me like when the Orioles are relevant, you want to watch them 6 days a week. If they were on fire, you would. So I'm asking you from the Rays perspective, when they catch fire, and they've
Right.
been by far the better franchise over the last 20 years, right?
They have.
Like, in your market, no one cares about the Rays, but you love baseball and you don't go to the
Right.
games and you live on the other side of the bridge. Now they're
Right.
back in the blimp again. Like, and you always offer to like cover games for me and go to Sarasota. You're down in
Well,
Tampa. Like, do you, they're playing simultaneously. Are the Rays a part of your life just because you live there?
a little bit. Well, I'm retired, but I'm still writing. I mean, I have a little freelance gig with this group of Tampa Bay newspapers, which is actually funded by the St. Pete Times. Now it's the Tampa Bay Times. So I'm still writing. I'm working on another book idea, but I don't want to say a whole lot about it right now. It's just a proposal. I got into the Rays during this period, like you're talking about, when the Orioles were terrible. When Madden got here, I got to know Joe. I didn't cover the team every day, but I was doing a lot of freelance work, and I was over there a lot. And Rick
And you're
Vaughn,
one of the guys that likes baseball that wants to be at the ballpark, right?
right? Well,
In
Rick
the same way
Vaughn,
that Craig Heisler wanted to be at the ballpark. Ginsburg doesn't do it anymore, and he's still at the ballpark. I mean,
yeah,
Luke, if he didn't do this anymore, he'd probably go to the ballpark, as a fan a little bit more often and enjoy himself. So I
yeah,
would say for you down there where the place is empty, and you mentioned Rick Vaughn is one of my all-time favorite people. Rick
right,
Vaughn wanted you at the ballpark because you're a local sports writer that
yeah.
felt the heartbeat of his team that was always trying to get, as you pointed out from the beat. You were there the day they landed. Like they didn't have enough Joel Poileys who wanted to be at the ballpark,
Well, I wrote the first story when Chuck Lamar was named general
right?
manager here. That's going back a ways for the old Tampa Tribune. Yeah, Rick was great to me because, like I said, I was a freelancer. I had another part-time job, full-time job out of the industry because I left newspapers like 2000 just because I saw where the industry was going, but I kept my hand in it. Rick was always great. Yeah, so the Madden years from like '08. What I liked about the Rays then that I don't like now is this was before they started losing all their guys and they started to get good and they had see that's the thing like
Is
with
that
the
like Carl
Orioles,
Crawford era kind of in there?
BJ Upton, Carlos Pena, Longo, Bartlett, great shortstop, Ben Zobrist, and the pitching staff stayed the same for about 5 years. You know, Shields, Price, Cobb, Garza, Balfour, Fernando Rodney was a great closer for a couple of years. They were fun to watch, and I loved watching Joe outmanage guys. And the Orioles were so bad then. And people, in Baltimore would ask me, "Well, who are you rooting for?" So I'll always bleed Baltimore, but the Rays were just more fun and more
Well, and the
interesting to
Orioles will play
watch.
9 games a year down. They're down there every 8 weeks, right?
Right. But I don't go there often. I only go a couple times a year. I go once every series when the Orioles are here. So I think I may have texted you last week. I went to the 16-6 debacle the first Monday night when the Rays were here when the Orioles were playing terrible. But no, I don't watch every inning of every game, but I read a lot and follow it. Full disclosure, the way I feel about the game now, I prefer watching hockey or football, but I still follow baseball. It's just the analytics part of it, and this would be part of my book if it comes to fruition. It's ruined the game, Ness. I mean, we that's a whole other direction to go into, but it has killed my love for baseball. Just the I will say this: one of the guys that I'm working with potentially on the book, Hall of Fame pitcher, because I'm doing a lot of research. He had a great line. I asked him, do managers manage? Because the last time I was on, we were talking about Albernaz, and we both agreed it's really not his club. And this guy had a great line. He said, managers today are managers of information, not people. And the rest of his quote was, when you don't manage people, you lose. All these guys now are just given the numbers, given the statistics, and you can tell it's like, look, I'm glad Calzer hit those 2 home runs, but what I'm getting at is I'd find the 2 pitchers that threw those home runs, Kenley Jansen and the other cat the other day, because there's only one spot that Calzer can hit the ball, and they threw it inner half, belt high. We all know you throw him up and away, he'll swing at it, really down and in, can hit a curveball to save his life. A good kid. I'm happy for him. But my point is, everything is numbers driven. So if you're asking me, no, I don't hang on every pitch. I watched a little bit of the past 3 nights, on Ray's TV down here, but I was doing other things around the house, and I was following the game, on the computer too. So, I stay in touch.
Do you live on the Tampa side, and this is getting into the
Yeah.
weeds for Baltimore people, but
Yeah.
do you hate going there to Tropicana Field?
No, because it reminded me of like when I lived in Baltimore, and once we moved to the county, I mean, uh, it was still 45 minutes, going. I remember the ride down University Parkway, and then the traffic would get closer as you got to Memorial. No, it's I just have other things going. I mean, well, my daughters are both grown
No,
now,
but
but
when you go there, is it an
I,
experience that because listen, and
I
I'll
don't
bring
know.
this up, and I didn't bring it up with Luke because it pisses him off, and we have too many things. When they're sweeping the Rays,
Uh-huh.
I don't want to talk about how empty the stadium looks, right? I could
Yeah.
talk about that anytime, but
Right.
it is kind of alarming to me when I put on an Oriole game on weeknights and it looks like the Expos. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
looks like, oh my God, it's 80 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have Pete Alonso and they have Gunnar they have Rutschman, they have it's not Rio Ruiz and who are these guys or whatever. And I often wonder in a place like Tampa and in Miami, where in Miami,
Yeah.
by far, Joel, and I mean this. I'm not patronizing you or Rick Vaughn or any Joe Madden. I would by far prefer to go to Tropicana Field than to go to Miami to that blimp and see a game down in Miami there.
Yeah.
Understanding the weather. I'm out in Vegas a week ago. It's 105 degrees. Like you have to have a
Right.
dome, right? And they're building
Correct.
one for the A's out there. But
Mhm.
the notion that it's such a bad experience and why it didn't work in Tampa. And you're front
Right.
line, dude. You were a sports writer at the newspaper when it happened. You wrote the Chuck Lamar piece,
Yeah.
Boggs, McGriff, Arroyo, like all the
Right.
early changing the jerseys, all of that.
Yeah.
And even the winning. I mean, once they started really winning in World Series, now 18, 19 years ago, that started to happen for them.
Yeah.
And I was at the game 7 when they played the Red Sox. My wife and I drove you can look this up on YouTube. We drove from Miami. The Ravens played a 1 o'clock game, and at 4 o'clock, I left the
Mhm.
locker room. Billick was still the coach.
Right.
And drove across Alligator. My wife drove. She drives like Steve McQueen, dude. She was doing 95 miles an hour through the Everglades. Unbelievable. And we hit the turn at 75 and went and we literally
Right.
parked the car across the street and
Mhm.
bought tickets on the street for $20
For a
to
World
see
Series game.
game 7 of the American League Championship
Oh,
Series.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
were there that night. Like, and it was all Red Sox fans. I don't know what to say when like the love goes away and the passion goes away for guys your age or my age, and I'm heading towards your age. To
Yeah.
be like, and the kids with the shirts now, the rally taking the shirts off in left field. That's awesome. That's great. The Orioles have tried the bird squirting and all of that stuff, but there is a thing with going to the ballpark in Tampa specifically where I'm like, what did the community want other than a winner? And I keep
Right.
thinking that the Orioles mantra from Greg Bader 30 years ago back, I mean, Maroon didn't suffer this because the team still was packed, but
Right.
after Angelo screwed it up, like Albert Bell era, turn of the century, Ravens win the Super Bowl. The Orioles
Mhm.
mantra was a big orange middle finger with the bird saying, you'll be calling us for playoff tickets. You'll want those seats. Those seats are gold. Those seats behind home plate, everybody will want them. I remember when there was
Right.
a fist fight when they moved the fans from Memorial Stadium over there about
Mhm.
who was going to be where, and the Orioles moved from the third base to the first base side, and it was consternation as before PSLs, before we had a football team. So I mean, I have a long memory for the value of
Sure.
an Orioles ticket or a sporting ticket or the value of the baseball team, or I see the Colts banner behind you. We lost the team here, so I have the value of the Ravens and what that means that Lamar's running around. But I often wonder what they're going to do to dust themselves off to pick it up to the point where people are going to come and pay full price. They charge the dogs $20 on Wednesday. Joel, I'm not making this up.
No, I
Dog
saw that.
night, the dog, it costs $20 to bring your dog and 40 for you if you
Right,
want to bring your dog. But if my wife and I just went down there, you and I came to town, we get in for $12. Like, so
right.
it's really a weird dynamic that they're trying to sell this. I feel like the owners don't know what they're doing. My bigger point would be 8 games under 500 and in the cellar. That's no way to go. And that's one of the things that sunk the Rays in the beginning was that they
Yeah,
stunk and the
yeah,
Yankees fans and the Red Sox fans came down there and the dome was perceived as a bad experience. We have the best ballpark in this. We have all this access. People can get there from 95. People in the county all trumped up, don't want to come downtown and all of that.
right,
Tampa's situation and whether that franchise is going to be there and move that franchise and
right.
like that hangs eternally over them as
Yeah,
someone that you've been there from the beginning and watched it, and it's never caught on. I mean, even when they're in World Series, win World Series, like they still have never managed to get people to want to come and see them play baseball. And I think the Orioles are at that point right now where like
yeah,
they're trying to get people to come to the games, but they're restricting games. I mean, Friday night, sail it off. They're on Apple TV. They don't
yeah.
play. They're on my app that night, and,
Right.
and I don't know what. And then they're going to walk off the job in 4 months, right? They're going to shut the sport down. I'm just worried about all of it as I see these two franchises try to make it happen and
Yeah,
spending money on players. And you live there, and I live here. These are two places where it's like time has forgotten them from a fan base standpoint,
yeah.
even though the Yankees and the Red Sox make all this money and spend all this money. I mean, the
Right.
Orioles have had a little bit of success, but Tampa is what the North Star for everybody, you know?
Well, we've talked about this before, and Rick Vaughn would attest to this. And this is where ownership comes in. One of the reasons people did not go to the Rays in the beginning, and even when they got better, was because of the owner, Vince Namoli. I mean, this was the kind of guy where when they would have a 2 week or a 10 game homestand to save money, he wouldn't clean the stadium between games. People throw stuff under their seat, spill things. So the place stunk. It's never a bad experience going over there. 72 degrees, air conditioned. It's rainy season. I didn't mind going to Steinbrenner last year, even though it was a joke. Because it's a minor league stadium, but because I was used to going to outdoor games in Baltimore. But it was very hot, and a lot of my friends complain about it. But it's not a terrible experience going to the Trop. I don't mind going over to Howard Franklin. I mean, Ness knows what that's all about.
The Causeway.
The Causeway, but or the Gandy Bridge is another way to get there. But a lot of it was early ownership, and people
Well,
here
we're
love.
in early ownership for the Orioles.
Right.
They are. Listen, man, for you being an old fart and me and my Aparicio and your Brooks and your Boog and our Jim Palmer and all that,
Yeah.
and they don't treat Jim Palmer right. They don't. Brooks is dead.
Yeah.
Earl's dead. Louis' the oldest living Hall of Famer. We've lost Dick Gordon, who represented Louis, who would be the guy bringing him back to give a pap a wave for the
Oh, really?
60th anniversary of their World Series this year. Only a
Yeah.
handful of those guys left alive, right?
Right.
So for me, I haven't never said this before. The Orioles are an expansion franchise for Rubenstein and Arrighetti.
Yeah.
I mean, they have no fan base. They have no season ticket sales. They were left for dead by Angelos and left with a lot of debt. So they have to make money. They have to
Right.
spend money. They have to spend more Alonsos. They have to make more mistakes on Bassett, more mistakes on
Yeah.
Tyler O'Neill. Like, they're going to have to invest in a Rutschman or a Anderson or a whatever, Holiday. Somebody, they have to pay somebody. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like these 2 years where they run around and do Papa Wave and pimp up Cal and finish in last place, right? Last year, lose
Right.
a 500,000 fans their first year. The
Yeah.
general manager, I'm writing Fire the General Manager blogs, which I know you want to get to, Joel. By the way, Joel Poiley is our guest if you're listening on radio down in Tampa. So for me, you're giving me the aorta. They've had horrific ownership here for 30 years.
Yeah.
Horrific. Dude, it never took a friggin' day off of being awful. Even when
Yeah.
Adam Jones was here and it was decent, Adam Jones was mistreated, right? So by these people.
Yeah.
So Brooks Robinson was mistreated by these people. John Miller was mistreated. So like I don't feel special at all, even though I was a demagogue and what else did he call me? Delusions of grandeur. All those that was accurate. But for me,
Yeah.
these new people pissing on me, disappearing, sitting behind home plate when it's convenient, making a bobblehead,
Yeah.
showing up saying we have our wallets are open, we're open for business. Like, great. The stadium's empty. One
Empty.
night it's black night, the next night it's white night, the next night it's HBC night, the next night it's going to be Italian night. I mean, they've gone through neighborhood night, neighborhood jerseys, black night, Hispanic night. I'm not invited to Hispanic night, by the way. I'm the Hispanic that they don't invite.
Right.
Like it's they got Mandalorian night, right? They've done Tupac night, they've done Nelly night, they've done
Yeah.
hip hop night,
Yeah.
like and it's $12 to get in. It's 80
Right.
degrees. And other than the 40 kids that had their shirts off down in left field, like I don't know where the buy-in has to be them winning. I mean, Luke
It,
keeps saying that, but
yes.
once that happens, are people going to go back and pay full price? They had $10 tickets the other day after the second walk-off with
Right.
Cowser. And I said to Luke, I said, if I were a buyer and I wanted to get a bobblehead in August or something, and I had a night where I was going to take my niece back to the ballpark, $10
Right.
tickets could turn me on to pick a night and buy some tickets. I don't know how many people bought, but I mean, I am worried about their pulse off the field as
Right.
much as you and I talk about it on the field and the pitching. And I mean, I do that every day,
Yeah.
but like, they need to make you want to sit up every night at 6:30 in Florida where the weather's nice and really want to watch. They need to make everybody who's ever loved the Orioles sit up, and that's only going to be winning, I think.
I. That's it, man. You touched on it. I mean, you can go a lot of different directions. I mean, I don't understand a lot of what they're doing. The thing with the press box and premium seating. I understand it. They're just trying to make more money and get all their rich friends to pay a lot of the freight. Winning matters, and they've been bad. I thought about this the other day. I mean, obviously they haven't won anything in 43 years, but a lot of those years it was terrible baseball. And I know I'm 69, so I mean I'm sure the fan base up there, or they're not aiming it at somebody my age, but losing beats you down, and it beats fans down.
You're
Because I
the guy that it's worth $50 or $100 to go to a game to a
right,
20-year-old kid that has no association with anything beyond Delman Young, and maybe they met Adam Jones one day 12 years ago.
yeah,
Like, I don't know what would inspire young people. I mean, the Caps have won a championship. The Nationals have won a championship. The Ravens are competitive every year. Like, I
right,
sort of get all of that. And
yeah,
I get why my name's Aparicio and you're a 69-year-old white dude from West Baltimore that grew up the Orioles in 70, 71, like 79. I mean, like we hold on to all of that. And that's
sure,
what gives it more value to us when they
yeah,
actually, it's like the Knicks right now, right?
I
Like
know,
literally, if you're a Knicks fan, what have you had for all of these years that this is a premium experience if you're a Knicks fan?
right,
And when the Rays achieve it, it doesn't even resonate in the community because the first owner was so bad that they didn't have a Boog Powell, they didn't have a Brooks Robinson, they didn't have a
yeah,
Johnny Yu, they didn't have any of that. And this team has sort of squandered it, other than Ripken sitting behind home plate
right,
and Palmer on the broadcasts and the stadium being empty. I mean, that's what I ran into two of their cats out in Vegas.
hmm,
And it's not like I'm peacocking around being a jackass, but I'm like, your stadium's empty and you treat me like garbage. What are you doing? I'm
yeah,
not looking to fight with you people. I wasn't
uh,
looking to fight with the last guy, but he was a prick. And everybody in
uh,
the city
yeah,
knew it. And I said to
yeah,
those guys, I'm like, he owed everybody at the money pool, everybody at the pool money at some point, and he pissed everybody here off. And he offended everybody in every
right,
way possible. And this is your franchise now.
right,
And the first 2 years, I don't know that you've done anything to alleviate that.
right,
Like the guy that comes in after Trump or the woman. I mean, I don't know. We don't vote for women in this country, apparently.
yeah,
But uh, whoever comes in, the first order of business isn't even fixing America. It's cleaning up the reputation so that
right,
somebody would trust us ever again to do
right,
business again. That's
right,
what he bought. And he doesn't even understand it because he's so checked out as a billionaire and so lost in the Whistler that, like, and to your point, it's Namoli. And I'm saying they need to figure that part of it out here too if they're going to get people's money, because you and I are old enough and care enough to and have
Right.
enough to buy a $75 ticket if I wanted to. But I
Yeah.
go online and look and I say, I love baseball and I know what it's worth to me. And I don't know what it's like a Springsteen ticket the other night, right? Like I
Right.
love Springsteen, but it ain't worth that much to me. And I didn't feel like enduring driving to DC to do it even for $50. So there is a
Mhm.
point where you just sort of tap out. And for you and me watching the games on TV, the games are great on TV.
They
Like
are.
it's hard to get people there at any price. And I do worry about the optics and all of it. I really do. And it felt Tampa
Yeah.
Bay-ish to me, which is why I'm even engaging you in
Yeah.
what can make people love it again other than just winning, because winning didn't even make people love it there in the modern era.
Well, you kind of answered your own question. I mean, the previous owner, Angelos, and his minions ticked off a lot of people. And from what I can gather from people up there, because there's still a lot of friends and family there, Rubenstein and his minions have not been that great in the community. They don't make people feel welcome. And then when you pile on top of that, the team's been lousy pretty much. I mean, I know it was okay in 24 for half a year, but they've been pretty bad. I think the line of demarcation for the team being bad was what, June 27th of 24 when Rutschman got hurt, and then they were bad the entire second half, horrible last year, and then we're coming up on almost 2 years of bad baseball. So you combine those things, an ownership that doesn't embrace the fans and raises ticket prices and season ticket prices with losing. It's weird down here though, Ness, because yeah, they've been pretty good since '08. Well, you know this because you have family near here. I mean, people love baseball here. There is a colloquialism, kind of like the Baltimore DC thing, where people don't like going to Washington. Here, they don't like going over the bridge. Like I said, I didn't mind. I just have other things going on. That's why I don't go. I don't go that often.
Well,
Now,
some people would say it's a blimp. It's unappealing.
oh, it is.
Everybody in baseball pisses on it, right? That the roof
Oh,
blew
they do.
off, and I'm thinking to myself, I've been to every stadium in the league and I never hated going there. And I've been there a dozen times for baseball games, playoff games, and mostly empty. It's empty a
Yeah.
lot. I've never can't think about it. I don't know that it wasn't full for game 7 of an American League Championship Series,
Right.
right? Like, so I
Right.
was there. It wasn't full that night. So I can't say that I've ever been there. When I was there, when it was almost full, was an NCAA tournament. I saw Kentucky and Duke play
Yeah.
down there in Marquette, back in the 90s when the Orioles spring trained down at Al
Right.
Lang. But I've never seen it full. And I'm thinking to myself, is this where we are with the Orioles? And, the
Yeah.
bobbleheads, people love that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
but I don't. Does
They're
that convert to
gimmicks.
loving baseball?
They're gimmicks. Well, when they first started playing at the Trop, I always said when I'd go over there, I felt like I'm going to a baseball game, but I feel like a Kenny Rogers concert is going to break out. It was just weird. I covered hockey over there when they called it the Thunderdome. It's
I
just a
remember that
it's
they
just a
played
myth,
hockey in there.
but they've cleaned it up since, and the Molly's been going a long time. And like I said, it's not a bad experience. But so what's going on with the new owners? Just to kind of update people there. I mean, they want to build a stadium on this side of the bay, right across street from Raymond James. Kind of make it,
But it's not done.
Oh, it's not even close to done. I mean,
Right.
there's all these memorandums going back and forth, and even a lot of people here that want baseball, like me, say, "Look, we have too many other problems here. We need mass transit. Education's not good.
Well, when you can
The
make a
roads are."
case that it's been there 30 years and has had no impact, that's terrible. I
Yeah.
mean, somebody did something, Baltimore Brew maybe in the last couple of days, about the
Uh-huh.
impact of the Orioles over
Yeah.
30 years and what it really means to downtown when nobody comes and
Right.
nobody goes to the hotels and nobody goes to the restaurants and Phillips isn't 2 blocks away anymore. And
Right.
like, bro, I live down there. I lost $250,000. I lost more than that on my condo, but
Yeah.
money I put in and then couldn't get out because nobody wanted to be downtown.
Right.
And that's why I started Baltimore Positive. But part of that was the exodus of 48,000 people coming downtown 80 times a year, like it was for a decade until Angelos wrecked it. And
Right.
maybe this is indicative of FIFA getting wrecked by kings and mafia, and football being taken over by people that want to play it 7 days a week and play eight. You know what I mean? Like these venture capitalists and all this money that comes in. Maybe Rubenstein and Arrighetti, they're so arrogant that they think someone like Katie Griggs is capable and competent enough to like
Yeah.
resuscitate a franchise that they have. You and I have all heartstrings. Oh, I own the Orioles. You know what I own? I own 6,000 people in the ballpark last night.
Right.
That's what
Right.
I own. I don't own Boog and Brooks and the parade and the trophy. And,
That's
I
right.
own an empty stadium until I fill it up.
Yeah. And maybe some of it too, Ness, is kids today. Baseball can be boring. It can be slow. I mean, I like some of the speed up rules. We talked about the ABS system and all that, but some of it could be that in today's age, it's not a game for young people, if that makes sense. So you really do have to win to draw people. I was thinking about this the other day, before you contacted me about coming on. If the Orioles had really gone in the tank in this homestand, like Luke said, I mean, you don't want to say the season's over, but the way they've been playing, that place would have even been more empty during the summer. We'll see how this little spurt goes. It's 5 out of 6. Let's not run away with ourselves here, but it could still be pretty empty during the summer. But I guess they
What
have more
concerns you the
problem.
most? Let's get onto the field, Joel. I mean, Joel Poiley's
Okay,
my guest,
all right,
author of the Tom Petty book. Like, I know you wanted to talk about the team and
that's all
things
right.
happening. We just did a 3-game series with the Rays, and one of the reasons I wanted you on because you're down in Tampa and you watch. That's why I asked how much of them do you watch, because I
Yeah,
haven't seen a lot. They kick the ball around as bad as the Orioles, if not worse. Luke pointed that out. I do get the feeling that middle of the order that they have there is a murderer's row in a way that until the Orioles find their Henderson, Rutschman, O'Neill, Ward, all these 30 home run threats, um, it's got to happen. It's got to happen for them. Alonso, I think I can pencil him in. He'll be
yeah,
okay, whether it's
right,
impactful RBIs and impactful home runs like
right,
the Cowser home runs were earlier in the week. But
right.
it's been an exciting week to talk. I mean, I'm looking forward to. I have a Casper Wells on too. Like I'm so delighted that they've won a couple of games,
Yeah,
because if they had lost a couple to the Rays this week, you and I'd be reading rights on them right now, and we'd be having a Lamar camp out waiting for the end of July.
no, there's no question about that. It's funny because one of the headlines down here today was, let's get out of Baltimore and come home. It's
Right.
because everybody's stressing down here after 3 losses. You made a point about Alonso and the home run, so let's get in the weeds a little bit. I'm still not pleased with Gunnar. 13 home runs, 28 RBIs, dude. In our day, you hit that many home runs at the end of May, you should have about 40 RBIs. I texted Ness about a month ago that I have no inside info, but I could tell by the way Gunnar was swinging from day one. His agent, Steve Boris, got to him. Hey, dude, nobody cares if you hit 220. Hit 35 or 40 jacks the next 2 years, and I'll get you your bones in some big city, the Dodgers or somewhere, the Yankees. Uh, because here's the thing, Ness. Why was Gunnar a better hitter last year, even though he had the bad ribs and he couldn't torque and twist? He hit 5 triples and 37 doubles, and most of that was to left and left center. He was a better hitter. Now, he only knocked in 67 runs, I think, because nobody in front of him was on because the team was terrible and he had no protection behind him. Look, I'm glad to, anytime they score runs, there's still a team to me that depends way too much on the home run. It wouldn't have mattered, say, the last 2 nights because they got great starting pitching. But I like to see more of the 4 singles and a double in an inning. Now, the first inning last night, that was fun. I mean, you don't see that very often. The first 7 guys get on
I
and
went to
blow the game
Costas. I
open.
sat down. I ordered. Now it's 5-0. Boom. I'm like, I'm coming back
That's
to
great.
Costas.
That's, go there more often.
Right.
Good luck.
Get the Sam and St.
Um,
Michael's. Yeah.
but hey, we're glad to see Adley back. I read something in the offseason, and Adley said And Adley usually does not say much to the press. I've said this before. I call him the Derek Jeter of interviews. Give the press something, but say absolutely nothing. But he said, I read something from him in the off season where he said, I don't know what happened to my swing, but that wasn't me. Where his ass on both sides of the plate was falling back into the dugout. That's why I don't like Holiday's swing. But I love this from the sense of analytics. He hits that cheap 337-foot home run the other day, and nobody was talking about exit velocity because he basically popped the damn thing up. But it was a home run. But I don't like his swing. But they have played a little better since he got back. I mean, I don't know if he's just given the infield a little
Well, Blaze
stability.
Alexander's been okay, and Leody
Oh, he's
Taveras.
he's
I mean,
been,
their role players have done. I
they
mean,
have.
Ward's going to walk 150 times. Like
But where's the
there's been
power?
contributions,
Yeah,
but by and large, the starting pitching hasn't been good enough to get them
no,
through. The bullpen got them through in the wins that they had in April,
right.
but their stars haven't been stars. I mean,
Yeah,
well, Luke calls them aircraft carriers or whatever. I mean,
yeah.
Henderson needs to hit 385 and,
Hit the ball
have
somewhere.
11 home runs and 12 doubles and two triples this month. And they need to go on a, 16-7 kind of tear. They're,
Yeah.
they're on the road to that right now, but finding the bats for, I mean, Mayo's hitting a buck and a half, and Alonso's hitting a buck and a half, and Gunnar Anderson's hitting a buck and a half. It's where they were 2, 3 weeks ago. No wonder they're 5 games under 500.
Right. And look, Cowser still strikes out too much. I looked at the numbers the other day. He's striking out 37% of the time. Now, interesting thing about Gunnar, prior to this year, Gunnar struck out like every 4.5 times up, which unfortunately is about average for MLB batters now. This year, he's striking out about every 3.75 times. So if he gets that fifth at bat in a game this year, he's striking out more than likely. I just I always like to see him hit balls up the middle. I mean, he is correctable. It's not his stance or anything. I just think somebody got to him prior to the season and said, just hit the jacks. Nobody cares anymore if you hit 220, which is sad. But you look at the other guys. Yeah, I mean, I like Blaze Alexander. He's a nice little player, and he can play a lot of different positions. But here's where I'm going to get into Elias a little bit and why they miss Westberg. We'll get into the pitching in a minute. Now, I think they miss Westberg big time because I think we would both agree he may not be their best athlete, but he was their best clutch hitter. You know, I loved his two-strike approach. It's February 20th when they announce he's got that issue with his elbow. So he does that platelet rich plasma thing, which we all know. I've read a little bit about it. And my brother in law is a real intelligent guy and he's a doctor, and we've talked about it. It never works. What it is like an option for the player to not have surgery and hope that maybe it makes it play livable, but you would still need the surgery. So it turns out, obviously, like pitchers that have had it, like with Bradish, he needed the surgery. February 20th, dude, Elias had 5 weeks to figure third base out. They took Mayo off of third base last year because he can't play the position. I know he's made some decent plays this year. He's also cost them a bunch of games. He is not a good fielder. Here's what I'm getting at. I'm going to go old school on you and the fans up there. 1983, Orioles competing. They're going to win a world title that year, but this is late June. The one hole that team had was third base. It's late June. What does Hank Peters do? He makes just a straight cash deal with Seattle to get Todd Cruz, who was just kind of not playing a lot there. Cruz was a shortstop, but he had played some third base. Cruiser probably hit 202 for his lifetime. Of course, the first game with the Orioles, everybody will remember, he hit 2 3-run jacks in Detroit, but they got him to solidify the infield. Dude, he was like Manny Machado. You remember Cruz. He had a cannon of an arm. He solidified that infield. And then what happened later in the year was when he batted near the bottom of the order, they called Cruz, Dempsey, and Dower the Three Stooges, but they all contributed in their own
So
way.
did Floyd Rayford. So that's, right?
My man Floyd, you know who started 83 at third base? maybe you'll remember a guy named Leo Hernandez, who they had picked up from like the Mexican League. They had a black hole at third, first after Brooks left, then Doug took over. Then when they traded Doug for Dan Ford for a couple years there, yeah, it was Rayford, Glenn Gulliver. They couldn't find a third baseman. And, Cruiser filled that need. Great move by Hank Peters. I'm sorry, Elias, you blew it. You had 5 weeks in
But
the
there's a
best.
reason they didn't want Len Sakata playing over there every day at that point, and that's where they are right
Right.
now. Is saying like, all right, is Blaze Alexander a guy we want to give 540 at bats to in this case? And now making Holiday a third baseman, which
No, no
part of this
bueno.
with the Elias thing, and I'll let you get on to it. By the way, Joel Poiley is our guest here. If you're listening on radio, it's just the fact that this team's defense it's not a priority for them. Alan and I
No,
talk about this all the time. Alan McCallum and I, but
yeah,
more than that, that it plays out on the field when they're like, just go over to third and play, Jackson.
right,
And you're
right.
young, you're an athlete, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Dude, this is the major leagues. What are you doing?
Albernaz said the same thing a couple weeks ago, remember? And it kind of surprised people. This organization has not prioritized defense for a while. Kind of shocking. You can see it on the field, but the Orioles remind me of like, well, two things. I think one of them I texted you. I call them the Rosanna Danas of baseball. If it's not one thing that goes wrong, it's the other. Or I equate them to an erector set with no connecting parts. They have some pieces, but they don't connect. They give away more free bases like free candy. And then when you lose a game by 1 or 2 runs, people who really aren't into the game that much don't, Alan and Luke and you guys would, but you lose a game 5-4, but you go back over to early part of the game in the third inning, they botched a relay. Cowser and O'Neill are kicking the ball all over in the gap on a double, and the guy gets from second to third. And other teams who can hit a sac fly knock him in. And then late in the game, when you're down 4-2, the one thing I'll say about this team is they don't quit. They rally late, but they give away so many runs early, and it's because they don't prioritize defense. I mean, look, it's catching up to the Rays. I mean, they're probably worse than the Orioles
Well,
defensively.
that's
And
what I say. How do you play 700 ball kicking the ball around? Like, that's really hard to do.
pitching and their hitting approach is different
But
than
you say
ours.
pitching that leads the defense unless you're striking people out, right?
Right. Now let's talk about the Orioles pitching for a minute. Well, let's talk about O'Neill. They have to DFA General Soreness. I'm wondering when Beavers comes back if that's the end. Probably not, because Elias won't admit that as a colossal mistake. I didn't like that signing from the beginning, Ness, because Boston knew something. He had like what 33 dingers or something in 110 games in his last year there, like 3 years ago now. They knew something. His body is breaking down. He's been trending playing fewer and fewer games for the last 3, 4 years, even before the Orioles got him. And I mean, he's a 240 strikeout artist like everybody else now. And so you get him to hit left-handed pitching, and what is he? 2 for 50 against. It's ridiculous. And I know he has a good arm, but I don't really think he's a great outfielder either. So somebody has to go. Tommy Pham is interesting, and Tommy's probably over the hill, but Tommy's a guy that will kick some ass in the clubhouse. And I think it's been good to have like Elias and Bassett, because they needed some adults in the room there, especially when you're not playing well. But if it's Pham that they bring up to replace O'Neill, Tom, if people don't know Tommy's background, I mean, he was abused by his dad. His dad went to prison. I mean, he's a hothead. That's why he's played on like what 13 teams in 10 years. But if he has anything left in the tank, but he's the kind of guy that will get in your face when things go wrong and you don't play the game the right way. So I don't know why Elias signed him. Maybe just to scare O'Neill or whatever. But how are you going to scare somebody making 15.5 million a year? But as far as the pitching, I'm glad to see Bradish finally finding it. But he's an interesting case to me. Remember his 4 or 5 starts at the end of last year? Everybody said, "Whoa, he's back." And then the first, what, 6 or 7 this year, he's all over the place. His command's not good. I've talked with a lot of guys who had the Tommy John surgery, even the rotator cuff surgery. Ben McDonald, I talked to him when he went through it. That's a reconstructive arm surgery, man. These guys come back and tell me I have to learn how to throw again. The ball feels different coming out of my hand. So, long story short, it looks like now we're getting the real Bradish, but it took him 6 or 7 starts to get his command down and be the guy we wanted. But this is the other thing that ticks me off about the Orioles. When their guys go bad, they fall off a cliff. Trevor Rogers. Okay, we didn't expect him to pitch to a 1.8 ERA all season, but now he can't get anybody out.
Well,
It's
the cliff of where Rutschman
crazy.
went last year, and we're going to figure out where the cliff of Henderson is this year,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
crazy.
I would agree. The cliff part of the pitching is I expected more consistency, and Bassett too. I mean, I don't know where
Well,
you were on him, but I
well,
I
that's the only
I I
reason.
felt really good about the team and ownership in spending money
Right,
on a four starter, but he's got to at least look like a four starter. He's got to give him a chance to win. He's got to be representative.
right. Well, remember when we talked before, I predicted 85 wins because I thought their starting pitching could be good. Winding Elias into this, I gave him a B plus early in the off season. But as the off season went on and he didn't acquire a top of the rotation guy, I downgraded it to like the B or B minus after he didn't come up with somebody to replace Westberg. Because I don't know, was Ramon Urias still out there? He had to get somebody or a good field no hit guy. So that's still kind of a black hole. Because going back to Holiday, I don't think he's a third baseman. I don't think he's a great second baseman. Um, the problem would be, I mean, when Westy gets back, Gunner's probably a better third baseman than shortstop. It's just misplaced parts, all these disparaged parts that don't fit. But going back to the pitching, uh, Boz was like that down here. He could look really good for 3 innings and then give up 4 runs in the fifth inning. Glad to see his last 3 starts. He's looked good.
Well, Kramer
Um,
would unravel after like an error or something goes wrong or whatever. That
right,
I mean, we had Jimenez did that, Ponson did.
right,
There's a long history of that, right? Like what
yeah,
happens after something goes wrong. And to your point,
right.
both of these franchises, by the way,
Yeah,
they kick the ball around enough that pitchers are going to have to work to a
gets
fourth and fifth out
bingo.
or an extra base, and that's unfortunate. It's hard to win that way. I mean, the good Yankees teams, the good Dodgers teams, the good Philly, good Rays teams, the good
Right.
Joe Madden teams didn't
Oh no, no.
play through Longoria is going to throw the ball in the dugout 36 times this year.
No, remember Joe when he came up with all these great acronyms. Run preservation, you
Run
know?
preservation. I love that. Joel
Yeah.
Poiley's been watching the game, all the games. You just admitted to me you like hockey and football more than you like baseball. It's crazy, but he is
Well,
a sports writer in semi-retirement. I think we all are. He's also the author of the Tom Maddie book that you may see around town, including A Gentleman's Gentleman. And I won't bother you on your next book or anything like that. And you down in Tampa, you think it's your birthright to have the Stanley Cup Finals down there this time of year too. So there's a little bit of that going on too. Florida had it on the other side last year, and now Carolina's going to have it. Whatever. Looks like the Sun thing with hockey's worked out all right, right?
yeah. I'll let you know, what goes on with the next book. But I mean, just to preclude or conclude a little bit about the pitching, Eflin was a huge loss because he's much better than a 5, and he was consistent. How he pitched with a bad back for first 10 years and pitched that well, I don't know. So they're trying to piece it together. Brandon Young, good for Gibson, got his first win last night, but it'll all come down to the pitching because that hides a lot of problems. But let's see if they can keep it going.
Got to hit the ball too. Joel Poiley's down in
Yeah.
Tampa. Luke is at Oriole Park at Camden Yards all weekend. The Blue Jays in town, and then into next week we'll have one more week of optional, and then mandatory minicamp 2 weeks from now. If you're on the WNST Tech Service, you get it all first. Breaking news, all brought to you by Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. I am Nestor. We are WNST AM 1570. Hold that book up. Tell them about the book, Last Man Standing. Go ahead,
There
put it
you
up here.
go. Get it on Amazon. Get it in your favorite barber shop. Get it at the Ivy Bookshop up there. It's still out there.
I got to go to the Ivy bookstore. I'm going
Cold,
to do that for you
cold
just
history.
because I like books. I ain't read no books. We're
Yeah.
Baltimore positive. Stay with us.
Love you.